that there are far more effective ways of creating the jobs that we have to create than those tax proposals. With corporate America already sitting on close to $2 trillion cash on hand. It's not that our friends in corporate America don't have any money. We've got to help them. They've got $2 trillion cash on hand. The problem is not, in my view, that corporate taxes are too high. It is that the middle class simply doesn't have the money to purchase the goods and products that make our economy go and create jobs. So I think that if our goal is to create the millions and millions of jobs that we need, and if our goal is to make our country stronger internationally in a very tough global economy, I would much prefer, and I think most economists would agree with me, that a better way to do that, to create the millions of jobs we've got to create, is to invest heavily in our infrastructure. Now, the truth is, and I don't think anyone disputes this, the infrastructure in the United States is crumbling, and I'll go into more detail about that later. Got some very good information on it. But, you don't have to be a civil engineer to know that. All you have to do is get in your car today and drive someplace. And in my state and all over this country, what you are going to see are roads that are in disrepair. You're going to see bridges that in some cases have actually been shut down. You're going to see water systems. I remember, Mr. President, I was in Rutland, Vermont, the second or third largest city in the state of Vermont. And the mayor there showed me a piece of pipe. It's very funny. It's an old pipe. And he said, the engineer who helped develop this water system and laid this pipe, he went off, after he did this work for Rutland, he went off to fight in the war. And he knew I knew there was a catch line coming. I said, well, what war was that? And he said it was the Civil War. So you're talking about water pipe being laid in Rutland, Vermont, and this is true all over the United States, laid in the Civil War. And the result is we lose an enormous amount of clean water every day through leaks, water pipes bursting every day, all over the United States of America. Well, we can put people to work improving our water system, our wastewater plants, very expensive proposition to develop good wastewater plants. I was a mayor, you were a governor. It is an expensive proposition. Roads, bridges. Furthermore, Mr. President, I don't have to tell anybody here, our rail system, which used to be the greatest rail system in the world, is now falling way behind every other major country on earth. In Vermont, as a result of the stimulus package, which did a whole lot of very good things in the state of Vermont, one of the things we're able to do is use $50 million of federal fund, private money, to make major repairs on one of our important railways in the state. But we remain far behind most other countries around the industrialized world. China is exploding in terms of the number of high-speed rail lines that they have. We have got to do better. Our airports need work. Our air controllers need to be updated in terms of the technology they use to make our flights safe. And the point here is that what most economists would tell you is, A, when you invest in infrastructure, you get a bigger bang for the buck, you create more jobs for your investment than in most instances giving a variety of tax breaks to the corporate world. And second of all, and not unimportantly, when you invest in infrastructure, you are improving the future of this country. You're making us more productive. It's not just creating jobs, it's creating jobs for a very specific purpose, which makes our nation more productive and efficient. And thirdly, let me tell you something as a former mayor. Infrastructure does not get better if you ignore it. You could turn your back if you're a mayor or a governor on the roads and on the highways because you don't have the money to fix them today. They ain't going to get better next year. At some point, they're going to have to be repaired and fixed, and we may as well do that right now. So I believe that the money, the very substantial sums of money in this agreement between the president and the Republicans, which goes into tax breaks for corporate America could be much better spent, more effectively spent on the infrastructure. Point I want to make in opposition to this agreement is that what we have heard from the President and others is that, look, this is a compromise. You can't get everything you want. Well, you can't get everything what you want around here. That's true. But one of the examples of the compromise is an extension of unemployment benefits for 13 months. Well, let me be very, very clear. In the midst of a serious and major recession, at a time when millions of our fellow Americans are not only out of work through no fault of their own, but they have been out of work for a very, very long time. It would be, in my view, immoral and wrong to turn our backs on those workers. Their unemployment benefits are going to be running out soon, and it is absolutely imperative that we extend those unemployment benefits for the 2 million workers who would lose them. But here's the point that I want to make, Mr. President. Some people say that this is a compromise. Well, the Republicans gave on unemployment, the President gave on extending tax breaks for the rich, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the point. I don't believe, honestly, that the Republican support now for extending unemployment benefits really constitutes much of a compromise. Because the truth of the matter is that for the past 40 years, under both Democratic and Republican administrations, under the leadership in the Senate and the House of Democrats or Republicans, it has been bipartisan policy that whenever the unemployment rate has been above 7.2%, unemployment insurance has always been extended. So what you have had is long-standing bipartisan policy. That's what we have always done. That is what we should be doing in the future. I do not regard that Republicans now supporting what their party has always supported, extending unemployment benefits when unemployment becomes very high. I don't see that as a compromise. I see that as what has been going on in this country and in the Senate for 4 decades. Now, Mr. President, I've talked about the negative aspects of this proposal, but I am going to be the first to admit that, of course, there are positive and good agreements in this. And what are they? What are some of the positive aspects of this agreement? Let me just tick them off. Number one, I believe very strongly, and I know the President does, that it is absolutely imperative that we extend middle-class tax cuts for 98% of the American people. I don't think there's been any debate about that. When median family income has gone down by over $2,000 during the Bush years, when millions of our people today are working longer hours for low wages, when people can't afford to send their kids to college or take care of child care, I think it makes absolute sense. I don't think anyone denies that it is absolutely imperative that we extend middle-class tax cuts, and that's what this provision does, and that's the right thing. Furthermore, in this agreement, we have an extension of the Earned Income Tax Credit to working Americans, and the child and college tax credits are also in there. Every one of these agreements is very, very important. These programs will keep millions of Americans from slipping out of the middle class and into poverty, and they will allow millions of Americans to send their kids to college. So I'm not here to say that there is not anything of value in this agreement between the President and the Republicans. They are. And we have got to fight to make sure that all of those programs remain in the final package when it is passed, when the final package is passed. But when we look at the overall agreement, we must put it in a broader context, and that is, what will the passage of this legislation mean for the future of our country? And in that area, if you look at it in that context, I think the evidence is pretty strong that it is just not a good agreement and not something that should be passed. Mr. President, passage of this agreement would mean that we would continue the Bush policy of trickle-down economics for at least 2 more years. And that is not a good thing to do, because I think, as most Americans know, that philosophy, that economic approach, simply did not work. The evidence is quite overwhelming. I don't think there's much debate. When median family income during Bush's 8 years goes down by $2,200, when we end up losing over 600,000 private sector jobs, and all of the job growth was in the federal level, I don't see how anybody would want to continue that philosophy. But that, in essence, is what will happen if this agreement is passed. Now, I want to say make another point here about what happens if, and I will do my best to prevent this from happening, but what would happen if this agreement would pass? Does anybody seriously believe that our Republican colleagues would then say, oh, okay, well, we've got an extension of tax breaks for the very richest people. We've lowered the tax rate on the estate tax. Those are good victories for millionaires and billionaires, and we're going to go home now. We're not going to continue the fight. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. We're already hearing soundings about where our Republican friends want to go. The president put together what I thought was a very poor deficit reduction commission. I thought that the folks on it were not reflective of the American people. I thought there was a very much big business, corporate partiality there. And the initiatives that came out of that commission, which fortunately did not get the 14 votes they needed, suggest to me that those of us who are concerned about protecting the needs of the middle class and working families, we are going to have to be pushing back pretty hard for what's coming down the pike. I think that what we will be seeing is that if this proposal negotiated between the president and the Republicans is passed, what you will be seeing within a few months are folks coming here on the floor of the Senate, and this is what they'll say. They'll say, you know what? Deficit is high, national debt is too high, and yes, oh yes, we drove the national debt up by giving tax breaks to billionaires, but that's the way it goes.